Next on Currents News, Hurricane Michael cut a deadly path of destruction through Florida. Mexico Beach, the town that took the brunt of the storm, nearly gone. The latest on the breaking story is next. A big development at that Vatican summit on young people. A bishop called for married men to become priests.
Even if you are young, a woman, a bishop, we are all together in the same way.
Sister Natalie Beckett is a world-renowned expert on young people. She's attending the synod and will speak with me in a few moments. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Hurricane Michael was the most powerful storm to hit the U.S. mainland in decades. At least 2 people were killed and more victims could be buried under debris. Karen Kafa reports the latest on the devastation and the recovery.
This hurricane was an absolute monster.
In the Florida Panhandle, sun after the storm and sorting through the aftermath of the strongest storm to hit the continental U.S. in more than 25 years.
Nothing. I never seen nothing like it.
Hurricane Michael slammed into Mexico Beach, Florida Wednesday afternoon with 155-mile-per-hour winds. This morning offered a first look at the storm's power and its destruction.
This was never in our imagination. This here, it was such a tremendous thing that I never imagined this was what was going to happen to our home here.
Along with Mexico Beach, Apalachicola also seeing some of the storm's worst. FEMA Administrator Brock Long said rescues are a priority today.
Right now, the focus is truly on life safety and making sure that we are helping people who may be trapped.
Hundreds of thousands of customers in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and North and South Carolina are without power. Michael moving through the Carolinas, bringing tropical storm force winds and heavy rain to some areas that took the brunt of Florence just weeks ago.
This storm will not go down without a fight. It is still a threat and should be taken seriously.
President Trump issued a disaster declaration for Florida, and the administration has pledged its support during the response and long recovery.
We are with you. We will continue to work with you until we rebuild and recover bigger and better than ever before.
Karen Kafa, Currents News.
The calm before the storm was caught on camera. A storm chaser captured the eerie calm in the eye of Hurricane Michael as it began to make landfall. That serenity didn't last long, though, as the eye wall came ashore with wind gusts topping 155 miles per hour, leaving tiny beach towns barely recognizable. The catastrophic storm was just shy of a Category 5 hurricane. Michael was later downgraded to a Category 3 storm as it moved inland. Federal officials are now assessing the damage Michael left behind. They're calling Mexico Beach, a shore town full of bungalows, the ground zero of that storm. The view from above shows the devastation on the ground as the coastal community took the brunt of the hurricane. Along canals and beachfront property, foundations mark where houses once stood. Save for a few shells of homes that somehow withstood the winds, the neighborhood has been flattened. Another town that will now spend months rebuilding is Panama City Beach. To the left of your screen is Pirates Cove Marina in Panama City, Florida, just before the hurricane. Now, to your right is what's left of it. What was once a full-service marina offering the largest boat storage on the southeast is now completely destroyed by the storm. Boats were left mangled when the roof caved in. The governor of Florida, Rick Scott, is urging people to stay off the roads as search and rescue crews go through the rubble. Omar Jimenez has more from Panama City.
In the daylight, people are really getting the first glimpse at the destruction that Hurricane Michael has left behind. You can see this shopping plaza just behind me and how widespread this destruction actually is. All of this debris creeping through and bursting through what used to be windows here in a grocery store and a bakery as well. Then as you come down this plaza, you can see what I've been showing people really throughout today is this office space, at least what used to be an office space, reduced to rubble rubble at this point, featuring things like highway signs that have blown in from who knows where, really, at this point. And this was not a lightweight building. It was built with brick. It was built with cinder block, all of it completely destroyed by these winds that came through. When Hurricane Michael made landfall just east here of Panama City, it did so with wind speeds of 155 miles per hour. Yes, a Category 4, but just a few miles per hour shy of a Category 5. Now, I want to show you what it looks like just across the bridge from where we are here in Panama City. This is a boat yard. Boats thrown everywhere in the strength of this storm that came through, and the boat warehouse in particular completely destroyed. It looks like a bomb went off on that particular property right there. So where do people go from here? Well, when you talk about officials and crews, search and rescue crews out throughout the day today, trying to make sure no one else is in any life-threatening situations. Power restoration also going to be among the top priorities for officials as they work through this. But for residents who are waking up in many cases to destroyed buildings and destroyed homes, at least partly for those that survived here, the question for them is going to be, how do we move forward? Do they stay and work on the recovery process, or do they choose to leave and live somewhere else altogether? For those that have evacuated, the calls still are for them to stay evacuated because, at least for right now and today, it is still too dangerous for them to return. Reporting from Panama City, I'm Omar Jimenez.
When Hurricane Michael slammed into Florida, several of the state's dioceses turned to prayer. In Pensacola, Tallahassee, the diocesan Facebook page invoked the intervention of St. Michael the Archangel. The Diocese of Venice posted a hurricane prayer appealing to God as the master of land and sea. Florida's Catholic charities are mobilizing to provide aid to the storm's victims. Headlines from the history-making summit at the Vatican. The Church Fathers, who will write the final report on the Synod, have been selected, and all are allies of Pope Francis. A total of 12 men, cardinals, bishops, and priests were chosen, including Mexico City Cardinal Carlos Aguirre Retes. They will shape the conclusions from the Synod focused on young people and the Church. Speaking to the Synod, one bishop said he's sure some married men would become priests if they were only asked. That's if the Church were to accept the ordination of married men. Belgian Bishop Jean Cockerals raised the question during a meeting on vocational discernment. He believes it's one way to address the dwindling number of priests. Sister Natalie Beckett is one of the top leaders at the Synod. The nun is recognized around the globe as an expert on young people, and she is the first woman ever to head up France's Evangelization and Vocations Office, and she joins us now. Sister, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Sister, you are there at the Synod in a very official role. You're one of very few women there. There are only about 10%. How deeply involved are you in the Youth Summit?
Well, I think I am involved like all the people here, you know, the youth, because there are many women among the youth who are observers like me. In fact, we are only 10%, but, you know, it's the first time there are so many women in this synod hall. So it's a good thing, and everybody is very active. Of course, even if you are young, a woman, a bishop, we are all together in the same way, and everybody is very involved in the process.
Sister, as we've been reporting, the world's bishops are gathered in Rome to discuss young people, to discuss faith and vocations. Now, you are no stranger to any of these concerns, and you have worked to address these issues throughout your career. What do you hope will come out of all these discussions? What's your vision for the youth?
Well, my vision is that the youth should be the protagonist. You know, they are in the church. They are already very active. I can already tell you that in the synod, they play a major role, and they are very well listened to by the bishops. And I'm very happy because they are very connected to the youth. And all together, we realize that we are church together. You know, everybody should be active, not just only for the church, but to transform the world. And my hope for this synod is that it will be very fruitful for all the youth in the world.
Taking a look at a bigger picture of this synod, Sister, as a rule, bishops, priests, even religious brothers, they're allowed to vote on the synod's documents. Religious sisters are not. Will this ever change?
Well, we will see. The church is changing step by step. I really feel, and I'm very joyful for this wonderful experience here, but because there is a lot of wind of the Holy Spirit, a lot of energy. Most of the people who are here, and almost all bishops, think things should go on and change. And so I'm very hopeful that maybe next synod, new things will happen.
And what must happen in order to see more women, more leaders like yourself represented more in the church?
Well, what is very interesting, in this synod is that the question of women in society, in the church, it's not only a question from women. And we are very happy because many bishops, they talk about the question of women leadership. They know that equality is very important today. Some bishops really support women leadership because they know we have to be both together and to share the vision, to collaborate, because it's a question for the mission. Nowadays, our youth, men and women, they need to see elders, spiritual guides, mentor, who are both men and women. And many bishops know that.
Oh, Sister Beckett, thank you so much for your perspective and your insight. It was a great pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
Net TV will broadcast a major event linked to the Synod, the canonizations of Oscar Romero, Paul VI, and other new saints. The coverage airs on Sunday, October 14th, beginning at 5 p.m. on Net TV. As pressure mounts on Roman Catholic dioceses across the country, bishops in Texas have decided they will be next in releasing the names of priests accused of child sex assault. All 15 bishops in Texas have agreed to publish a list of credibly accused clergy members before the end of January. Austin's Bishop Joe Vasquez hopes that releasing the names will begin to rebuild trust with believers.
One way, of course, is just to go directly to the authorities. So they can go directly to the police, report that, and then the process begins. That's a criminal authorities process. But they can also come to the church. And they can also tell us, and then we will also start a process, working, of course, with the authorities.
A 2004 diocesan report out of Austin said that since 1950, only 6 clergy had been accused. A damning U.S. congressional report concluded that religious persecution in China is worse than ever before. Congressmen are saying the treatment of ethnic minorities by the communist country may constitute crimes against humanity. The report contains a prisoners list of over 1,000 people who have been incarcerated solely because of their faith or ethnicity. An Egyptian military court sentenced 17 people to death for involvement in several deadly attacks on Christians. In December 2016, 25 people were killed during an attack on a Coptic church during the Christmas season. Last year, another bombing claimed the lives of at least 45 people as they attended Coptic services during Holy Week. Christians make up about 10% of Egypt's population. There's a lot more news headed your way. A historic church has been vandalized in California, the Mission in Santa Barbara. The mysterious polio-like disease that's targeting a growing number of children, a story of recovery is ahead. Plus, the man who dedicated to his Lithuanian community and the Catholic Church, he's a shining star of the Brooklyn Diocese. One of the oldest Catholic churches in California has been desecrated. Vandals spray-painted Old Mission Santa Barbara with the words rape and a misspelled genocide. On the side of the building, quote, "Never forget the lives and land stolen." Windows were also broken. The damages to the building total about $30,000, making the vandalism a felony. The mission was established in 1786 and is one of 21 California missions founded by the Spanish Franciscans. An Irish bishop says he is establishing a ministry of people who will fight the devil. Bishop Alphonsus Cullinan says he has received several requests from exorcisms lately and wants to start training more people to get rid of evil spirits. Cullinan says he is absolutely in agreement with Pope Francis that child abuse is caused by Satan. Condom use can never be advocated by the Catholic Church. That's according to Kenyan bishops speaking at a health conference in the country following increased rates of new infections. Right now in Kenya, 1.4 million people are living with HIV and nearly 30,000 died last year from complications related to AIDS. The bishops insist that the only morally upright approach to stop the spread of HIV and AIDS is abstinence. The Shining Star Award Dinner is an annual and much-loved event in the Diocese of Brooklyn, also fondly known as the Diocese of Immigrants. Every year, immigrants are awarded a high honor from Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio because of their contributions to the church. Currents News' Tim Harfman introduces us to one honoree set to receive his award this Friday that's helping to rebuild his local parish. Tim, tell us more about it.
Liz Raimunda Szlazisz, better known as Ray, is a big force in the small but mighty Lithuanian community at Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church in Williamsburg. He'll be the next person dubbed the Shining Star in the diocese, and he's done the work to prove it. Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary Church in Williamsburg, Brooklyn is undergoing a complete renovation, thanks in part to the Lithuanian community. Monsignor Jamie Gigantiello is the church's pastor.
They're very much a part of this parish, and they're very much a reason why this parish is in existence today.
Ray is part of that small community. In all of New York State, there are less than 50,000 people who identify as Lithuanians. He's the recipient of this year's Lithuanian Shining Star, a prestigious honor presented by Catholic Migration Services. The annual event acknowledges Catholics for their contributions to immigrant communities and the church. This year, there are 28 honorees.
It's a tremendous honor to me. I feel like I'm continuing in the footsteps of my parents and the Lithuanian community that migrated to the United States from Lithuania following World War II.
Ray is the official spokesperson for the Lithuanian community here in the parish. I get a call or an email from Ray almost every other day.
That's because Ray believes it's important to continue the legacy of his ancestors, like his parents, who fled Lithuania.
What they wanted to do was preserve a community here in the United States where they could keep their religious and cultural traditions.
Ray is active in the Williamsburg parish, which includes serving on multiple committees and organizing events. As the church undergoes restorations, Mass is celebrated across the street in the parish's school building. Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary is believed to be the only Catholic church in the 5 boroughs with a weekly Lithuanian Mass. With the renovations, Ray hopes it will continue the Lithuanian legacy in the Brooklyn Diocese.
It's really important for us to be a welcoming community. We have people here who have lived in the United States for the past 50 years and other people who have just come directly from Lithuania, and we want everyone to feel welcome, that they have a home away from home.
Ray and 11 other honorees will receive their Shining Star Awards tomorrow night at Gargiulo's Restaurant in Coney Island. Catholic Migration Services will recognize the 16 additional recipients next Friday.
You know, Tim, Pope Francis was in the Baltic nations last month. What did Ray think about that?
He called it an absolute thrill. While other parishioners were able to make it back to their homeland for the papal journey, he organized an event at the parish so Lithuanians could watch the papal trip.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for that report. Doctors are warning people in the United States to be on the lookout for a rare polio-like disorder after some children were diagnosed with the disease in recent weeks. One Wisconsin boy has been battling it for nearly 2 years. His family says it all happened very quickly. Nick Bohr reports.
August McNall of Janesville is learning to adjust, still recovering after a mysterious illness struck 2 years ago.
I just couldn't move my hand. I tried to go use the bathroom, but I couldn't shut it with my right hand. My fingers were just sliding right off the door.
Got a call from the school saying that that August was in the medical room, that his arm felt funny and his hand wasn't working.
August deteriorated fast. He was rushed to American Family Children's Hospital in Madison and by then was already paralyzed in both arms and a leg. By morning, it was worse.
They called a emergency code, and he was moved to the ICU, and he was then intubated with a tube down his throat to breathe, and he was being artificially ventilated. So that was in less than 24 hours.
He was hospitalized for 2 months, and 2 years later still can't use his right hand. The diagnosis, acute flaccid myelitis, which is making news again with an upsurge in cases. It comes on suddenly, about a week after what seems like a cold.
The paralysis, again, is that's very difficult to ignore. That would be very difficult, but don't even count maybe minor symptoms of uncoordination, muscle weakness that they can't explain, things like that, especially, like I said, if you're like 5 to 7 days after a cold.
The quick treatment made all the difference. August has returned to play soccer, even run a 5K, and hasn't lost his positive outlook.
I got lucky there. I was Lieutenant RA before this happened.
According to the CDC, so far in 2018, there are 38 confirmed cases of this polio-like illness in 16 states across the United States. A rocket blasting off with a U.S. astronaut and Russian cosmonaut has failed. The spacecraft carrying the two men experienced booster failure just minutes after takeoff. This forced the rocket to make a ballistic landing, or coming in at a sharp angle to land. The two men on board are reportedly doing fine. NASA officials say they are launching an investigation into the incident. Still to come on Currents News, new Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh on the streets of Washington volunteering with Catholic Charities. A young athlete facing a medical challenge gets a big name contract. We'll be right back. Brett Kavanaugh isn't letting his first week on the high court throw him off his routine. The newly confirmed Supreme Court justice teamed up with Catholic Charities Washington, D.C., as he frequently does, to dish out meals to the homeless. Kavanaugh was joined by his former pastor, Monsignor John Ensler, who stood by him throughout the Senate hearings. Finally tonight, an inspirational story about an athlete who's just doing it. The young college student is a cross-country runner with cerebral palsy, and after his last race, he got a huge surprise, a monumental moment his parents say left him in shock.
I've never seen him that emotional.
No, never.
Never.
Justin Gallegos, a cross-country runner with cerebral palsy, emotional after finally fulfilling his dream of becoming a pro athlete. He had just completed a race at his college, the University of Oregon, when a Nike representative surprised the student with a 3-year pro contract. He's the first athlete with cerebral palsy to sign with the company.
I'm still kind of in shock that it actually happened.
He's worked very hard for it, and when he sets his goals, he sets them very high. And he always says, I make my goals very high and so scary that I have to go for them.
Gallegos, who once wore leg braces for his disability, began his cross-country career as a freshman in high school. He never let his condition, which affects his muscle and motor function, stop him from pursuing his passion, completing his first half marathon last April just shy of his goal of 2 hours.
There's been many moments along his story where, you know, he surprises us and these great things happen.
Now Justin hopes his story will help inspire others, calling his contract proof that there is no such thing as a disability.
You don't have to let your disability or physical impairment stop you.
You can do anything you put your mind to. It doesn't matter if you have a disability or not. And Justin's living proof of that.
Huge congratulations to Justin on his big accomplishment, which, by the way, fittingly took place on Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day. That is Currents News. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Liz Faublas. Set your DVR to record this program so that you never miss it, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.